Hi, everyone. So my name is Kendra Naparella. I am this team's eighth grade English teacher, and I'm very excited for the year ahead of us and the year that we have already had. So this year, your children are going to be doing a lot of reading and writing, as you may have already noticed. Reading and writing, I feel, is so important, hence my extensive classroom library and my encouragement of them to read every day. So basically, for those of you who are wondering what we're doing this year, we are going to be doing a lot of reading and a lot of writing. I like to follow as closely as I can to a Readers Writers Workshop style of teaching, and that means that the expectation is that the children are reading a lot. And when they read, we are going to be doing a combination this year of whole class novels, which you may have noticed we just finished our first whole class novel, which was The Outsiders. We're going to be doing some book club books this year, and then we're also going to be doing a lot of independent work. I believe very strongly in the power of choice, and I believe that while whole class novels are really excellent for creating a class community, we're all reading the same text. I think that there's a lot of benefits to the whole class novel. I also think that there's a lot of benefits to an independent book. The ability for kids to choose books that are interesting to them, and the ability for students to choose books that are windows and books that are mirrors for them, as well as books that are at their reading level, I think can be incredibly beneficial and transformative for some students. So we're going to be doing a combination of all three of those things this year. And if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to elaborate further. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to keep on going. It's so strange not to have you all in front of me. So in addition to reading this year, there also will be a lot of writing. So we write about our reading, and that's through our journaling and our writing assignments. But then we also are going to be writing creatively. So we will be doing a combination of nonfiction and fiction writing this year. We will be writing narratives. That's coming up. We're going to be doing short stories, and students are going to be writing their own short stories. They will be writing feature articles, so nonfiction feature articles, and that's actually going to be a combined unit with social studies this year. We're really excited about that. And they're also will be writing literacy essays, and that's something that is just a really important skill for us to be able to analyze a piece of writing. So that is pretty much the breakdown of what we're going to be doing this year. Of course, there'll be poetry sprinkled in throughout. I'm a huge lover of poetry. And really, I'm just excited to get to know your children better and to be able to support them in their reading and writing lives. I do have some helpful tips and tricks that I want to share with you before the end of my time with you all. So I'm going to get on to Schoology and kind of just show you some things that I think would be really beneficial for you to know as a parent. Okay, so here we are in Schoology and the ELA Schoology page, and I just wanted to kind of walk you through some really helpful things that might be useful to your students as well. So when you are on the Schoology page, every week, well, first of all, the Google Meet times will always be here. So students can click on this link here, and that will bring them to the Google Meet page. And they have been doing an awesome job, and I'm sure they already know how to do this, but just so you know, they just click on the link that brings them to the Google Meet. And the Google Meets are essential to the learning, especially when they are virtual, because that is how they are getting access to the curriculum. There are times when I pre-record videos and students can watch those, but there's also times when it's beneficial for us to be together as a whole class. And so it's always important for them to come to the Google Meets on time. The reason why it's so important for them to come on time is because oftentimes I'm just doing a short mini lesson, 10 to 15 minutes, and then the students are working on their own. So if they miss those 10 to 15 minutes in the beginning of class and they come as soon as the mini lesson is over, that they have missed all the instruction for the class and they'll have to go and watch the recorded version. I wanted to show you our weekly slides. These are every single week we have weekly slides, and every single week we have the assignments. And I encourage students to use these assignments as a checklist. So just to go through each night and check, okay, have I done the work for the next day? Also, we have the upcoming assignments that are on the side here, and you can use that as a really great tool to remember what you need to get done and what you have already done. The writer's notebook is on this main page here. because the writer's notebook is something that we're using throughout the entire year. Because this year is such a crazy year, we are not having writer's notebooks in the typical sense in which they would be handing them into me. Instead, everything is through their writer's notebook online, their virtual writer's notebook. I do want to say though that it's very important that students understand, and I've tried to reiterate to them, that they can always handwrite physically. I just ask that if they're going to do an assignment that is handwritten instead of on the virtual assignment, I just ask that they write it in pen so that I can see it, and that they just take a picture of that assignment and upload it to their writer's notebook. I understand that there's a lot of screen time right now for the students. And so whenever possible, if they are feeling fatigued by the screen and they just want to write in a typical notebook, they are welcomed to do so. Just know that I still have to have a way to assess their writing, and so they'll need to take a picture of it. Article of the weeks, everything that students need to know for article of the weeks is in this folder. There is examples, there is the video explaining how to do it, there's the rubrics. So it's really important that students are paying attention to the small details when we do assignments. And then, of course, we have our Wednesday conferences. So Wednesday conferences is really what I wanted to, really the whole point of this video. It was for me to tell you about the Wednesday conferences. That time is so wonderful because it's time when I can meet one-on-one with students. How it's been working is students click on the link here whenever that they need help. When they click on this link, it'll bring them to a table, and that table will have their times, and they just sign up for a time on Wednesdays. Completely open. Whoever needs help can use that time. And it's just a really great one-on-one time. I have been noticing that my conferences with students, because of we have to stay so far apart and because half of the students are online, it's really hard to have that privacy of just that one-on-one with the teacher. And so those are really great moments, especially if a child is struggling. It's a really great moment for me to help them. The rest is just some helpful resources, questions that students might have, encouragement to talk about their reading. But in this helpful resource folder, of course, is our syllabus. Um, Always will be there, and any important school info that we've done at the beginning of the year, like our netiquette and our class expectations that we've all agreed upon. But also we have our books, and more books. So because we are going to be doing independent reading, I encourage kids to always be reading a book. And I understand that in this environment, it may be challenging. So I have an extensive classroom library. I have a classroom library of over 1,000 books, and I really pride myself on trying to get the best of the best. I'm constantly buying the latest and greatest book. I just finished reading, Patron Saints of Nothing, which is a fabulous book. And I have just bought the sequel to Dear Martin, so I'm really excited for that to come into our classroom library. But a great way for me to continue to get books into our classroom library, to get the latest and the best books into our kids' hands, is through the Scholastic book orders. So if you are a person who likes to buy books, or if you're a person who encourages their child to write in a book, to annotate in the book, and you are buying books already, I really encourage you to check this site out, because every time you order a book, then our class gets books for free. And with our first order, we already got 3 free books to the classroom library, which is awesome. And it's always highly encouraged. However, I also understand that not everyone can afford to buy books, or sometimes we don't want to buy books. So there's some other really awesome resources on here. Of course, our school library. Your child might have told you that we are not able to physically go to the library, but we are able to still get or the school library books. We just have to check them out via the web page, as well as online books, right? So we have our ebooks. And here are some awesome resources for that. So Sora is a app that students get on their phone, and it is all of the school's libraries on there. So it's a really great resource for kids to get books if they are able to read on a phone or on a laptop. On their Chromebook, of course, they can read with Sora. It's a website as well as an app. So it is accessible through all of the technology that you have. And I've very much encouraged students to look through that, as well as Libby, which is through Sora. You can also do the public library and get public library books through there. So if touching physical books right now is something that is nerve-wracking for you for whatever reason, I encourage students to use that as well. Um, I believe that is the majority of the announcements that I had for you. The only other thing I wanted to touch on quickly was our syllabus. I have attached the syllabus to the top of our page. Please feel free to read through it. But I did just want to mention that I grade on a point-based system. So you may have noticed in the beginning of the year, those when there was only a few grades in the marking period, that those assignments were weighted much heavily. But now, because there are more assignments in there, it makes it so that those assignments aren't weighted as heavy. So when you look at the syllabus, there is a section on grading. And so I just want to say that small assignments range between 5 to 10 points and larger assignments between 40 to 100. At the end of the marking period, I take all of those points and divide it by the number of points that were earned. And that is how you get that is how students get their grade. As far as late work goes, I'm always happy to collect late work until the end of the unit. So they're allowed to hand in work until the end of the unit, and then we have to move on, mostly because I don't want kids to be stressing about all these assignments and things like that. Like when we're just moving on to the next fresh start, new unit, we often switch gears. And so it's important for students to stay up to date with their work. They do lose a point for every week that it is late, just to try to create that responsibility. I feel like a week is a long enough period of time for students to get that work in. I also want to try to teach responsibility and organization. Obviously, if there's ever any point where that's not a possibility, if there's an extenuating circumstance, they can always email me. But I do really encourage them to email me before it is due, if that's the case, or when it is due, and just communicate with me, and we can take it case by case. So that is everything I have for you. I really appreciate you listening to this long spiel. And if you ever have any questions, my email is knaparella@fmschools.org, and I would be happy to further our conversation. Thank you very much. It was lovely meeting you all.